From architecture to painting and sculpture, literature to live music and theater. Radio 111 presents Bonnie G and Brian Mendoza with The Desert Scene, your connection to culture and entertainment in the desert cities. Here's Bonnie and Brian.
And welcome to The Desert Scene. I'm here with Brian Mendoza, who's ably running the board and producing and doing all kinds of stuff. And we are really happy to welcome today as our guest, Jason Hull. Hey, Jason, am I mispronouncing your last name, first of all?
No, you are correct. It is Hull.
Okay, Jason Hull. Well, he is directing the upcoming production with script to stage to screen, Inez's Birthday and Then Some. I love this title. It's fabulous. Well, first of all, welcome and tell us a little bit about this show.
Thank you. I am not only the director, but I am also the playwright.
Excellent.
This is my newest play. It is a 2-act comedy, and I penned this during the 3-month lockdown period in 2020, in the early stages of the pandemic. And for me personally, that lockdown was kind of a blessing because I usually have 95 different things going on in my life. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I had 3 months to basically just sit and write, and it was wonderful. So,
yeah.
I'm really pleased with this show. It is in the same vein as shows like Sordid Lives by Del Shores, of course, is a wonderful playwright, and maybe Greater Tuna. Mm-hmm. So if you go for those kind of comedies, this will probably appeal to you. And with all of my plays in the past, I have primarily written comedies, and most of them were written to be comedies for the sake of comedy. The laughs were there just for the sake of laughs. This one is a little bit different. This one has more heart, and I think that the comedy is a little more raw. It's a little edgier, but the laughs really are there sort of to drive the train from moment to moment, because at its core, what this play is about is a series of moments that we share with significant people in our lives, and moments in which we really connect with others in a way that perhaps we hadn't been able to before. And so there's some really beautiful moments in this play between different characters that are a little surprising, because that's the nature of life. Sometimes when we connect with someone that maybe we've known all our lives, and then all of a sudden we're sitting and we're thinking, wow, I never knew that about you. That's incredible. So the laughs are there to drive this train from one moment to the next.
Okay, and I'm looking at the flyer, and I love this. A family curse, a pompous minister, a gay nephew, a redneck brother, a case of the gout, and Loretta Lynn. What could possibly go wrong? I love that. I just love that.
That's pretty much the play in a nutshell.
And I want to talk about the cast. So starring Brent Anderson, Winston, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. Giesecke, Stan Jensen, Shirley the Master, Jason Real, and Alden West. I know some of these folks. So was this play sort of already percolating in the back of your mind before the lockdown hit, or was it something where you were just kind of sitting, once the lockdown hit, did you just kind of sit down and things started coming to you?
I generally try to write a play about maybe one a year or about every 18 months. This one, like many others, just came out of one day I was sitting downtown having lunch, and I kept hearing this name in my head, Inez, but I'm hearing it with a southern pronunciation, Inez. Your Aunt Inez, because I'm from the South, and it's not your Aunt Inez, it's your Aunt Inez.
Okay.
And I as a writer, very often these characters just start speaking on their own in my head, and I started hearing Aunt Inez's voice and some things that might come out of her mouth, because she is totally unfiltered, totally uncensored. She is a spitfire. And I am so thrilled to have the fabulously talented Alden West playing her.
Yes, I can see that, yeah.
And Aunt Inez is the aunt that we all wish we had, or maybe some of us do have. in our lives. But once these characters started talking, the play just sort of wrote itself, as they often do. But it surprised me. It really surprised me when I was finished with it and I read it. I sat back and sort of went, "Wow, where did that come from?"
Yeah.
Because as I mentioned, typically I write just the comedy. Let's get the laughs. Let's put the comedy out there and get the laughs. But this one, a surprising amount of heart and feeling and interaction between these characters. And while it's not autobiographical, it very much is influenced by my own life. Tanner, which is Jason Reale's character's name, Tanner, is a young gay man who has fled East Tennessee, where he was born and raised, and is now living in Palm Springs for the past 12 years. Not unlike myself, although I've been here a couple of years longer. And he has been summoned for a visit to his mama's house back in Tennessee to celebrate his Aunt Inez's 85th birthday. And he doesn't want to go because A, he was not happy in Tennessee, and B, even though he is out to his mother, she thinks that he is living a celibate life of a virgin. And she doesn't know that his boyfriend that he has been living with is a boyfriend. She thinks he's a platonic roommate. And so he doesn't want to have to go and broach that subject. And his boyfriend wants to go because he's never met any of Tanner's family. Inez doesn't want to have the party at all because she's not allowed to have a male stripper there.
Okay.
Which is the only reason she wanted to have the party.
Yeah.
Woohoo, let's have some male strippers at my 85th.
Yeah.
And Louise is hell-bent on having the party because she is convinced that it will be Inez's last because no female member of their family has ever lived more than a month after her 85th birthday.
Wow.
So she thinks there's this family curse, which Inez thinks is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the other reason Louise wants to have the party is because she has her cap set for the new Southern Baptist minister in town, the Reverend Stuckey, played by Stan Jensen. And so she sees this as an opportunity to woo him and possibly get him to relieve her son of this fool notion that he is a homosexual.
Oh, okay.
And then there's Arlo, who is Tanner's older brother, who has had to move back in with his mama and Aunt Inez due to an unfortunate incident with a cigarette lighter in his former apartment that may result in some arson charges.
Okay.
And he is just a good old Southern redneck bubba, short on brains, but long on kindness.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want the party to happen at all because he has tickets to a Loretta Lynn concert. So he's trying to come up with a way just to blow this whole event off and go see the Queen of Country Music.
Okay.
So you tell me how that all came out of my head and made its way onto the page. And
yeah, I was going to ask you if any of the characters were based on anybody you knew, other than, the one sort of on yourself a little bit.
At some point, I have known all these characters in some form or fashion.
Okay.
Growing up, the running joke between my sister and myself was that our mom used to vacuum the house in high heels.
Okay. So, now, is that true? Is that true?
Yes, she did.
Wow. Okay. I love it.
My mom never to this day never likes to leave the house unless she is,
made up and the whole thing. Yeah.
Made it fully put together, and very much so with Tanner's wife, Tanner's mama Louise. I'm sure she would vacuum in pearls and heels. And Aunt Inez is really sort of a version of my late Uncle Frank. Uncle Frank was the uncle by marriage that would say anything. He would walk in when everybody's tiptoeing around the elephant in the room. He would walk right in and say, "So, how'd the elephant get in here, and what are we going to do about it?" Right. And no filter. And so Inez is sort of an homage to Uncle Frank. And I adored my Uncle Frank. He would always be the one to call you up just to tell you a dirty joke. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Now, so how many plays have you written total at this point?
All total, I have written 11 plays, and a large number of comedy sketches. we actually performed 3 different shows for Scripted Stage to Screen that were strictly comedy sketch shows, each show having about 12 to 14 comedy sketches, comprising them.
Yeah.
And as we spoke a couple of years ago during an interview, I wrote 1 novel, and I'm currently still at work on the 2nd novel.
Excellent.
And so I'm always writing something, and I get that from my dad. He is an author and has always had some kind of writing in the works over the years. So I get that from him.
Now, so this is a staged reading or partially staged reading?
It is a staged reading, but it is not a traditional staged reading where actors just sit behind music stands and read from a script. Yeah. At Scripted Stage to Screen, we actually block the show on a representational set. We use costumes. We use set pieces, props. We use some sound cues. Basically, we just don't have theatrical style lighting, and the actors are carrying scripts. Although, as I have always told my cast members, if we do our jobs correctly, those scripts will sort of disappear within about 60 seconds.
Yeah,
the audience will just forget they're even holding them.
Right. Brian has a quick question for you.
Hi, I actually had a question about how much creative control did you have over the process? Because I'm always curious about because I've always heard of stage to screen to script. I always forget the name of
script to stage to screen.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. I'm over here messing up. But I was going to say, how much creative control did you have over it? Did you get to decide who gets to star in it, or did you pick your directors and all?
He directed.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to correct myself. But how much creative control did you have over it? You would say compared to I guess a traditional stage show, I suppose, or just in general, how much creative control did you have over it?
I guess you had a lot, right? Because you wrote it and directed, I would think.
Think about it, he really did.
I do. Well, being the playwright, and I have been with Scripted Stage to Screen since 2011. I've had a show in their lineup every year, and feel very, very grateful for that opportunity. And I was asked to make one change for this particular reading, and I was a little uncomfortable with it at first. However, I eventually decided it was going to be the best thing overall, and that was that, as I mentioned, the comedy in this is a little raw. It's a little edgy, and so given our performance venue is in the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Desert, and many of our audience members are members of the church's congregation, and are of an advanced age, and some might be a little more conservative. I mean, it's a very liberal church, but there were some references in the script that I was asked if I could work around or change just for these readings. And I said, well, that I can do. So whereas the original script would probably just make an R rating, I have rewritten it for these readings where it's a PG-13.
Gotcha.
There is some profanity. There are no F-bombs. And there are no references to people's genitalia, that kind of thing. But it's a little edgier than my previous comedies. And fair warning to anyone out there who's thinking about seeing it, conservatism and religious hypocrisy really take it on the chin in this show.
Okay. Well, they are warned. They're properly warned. So this is coming up April 22nd, 23rd, 7:30 p.m. Tickets $10. Tell us a little bit about the bubble, the S2S2S audience bubble. Tell us how that works.
That is our way to make sure that during this time of COVID, when it still hasn't gone away, that we keep everyone safe. And if you go to our website, which is script2stage2screen.com, there is a box you can click on that says review our COVID precautions. And what we're asking is that anyone who is in a show or coming to see a show, join the audience bubble. And you will need to provide proof of full vaccination against COVID, as well as contact information, phone number and email, because if, heaven forbid, there was an instance where someone came down with COVID,
you'd have to contact everybody. Yeah,
exactly. We're in information for contact tracing, and we've been very lucky so far. There was one one show earlier this year that was in rehearsals, and unfortunately, the director and I believe one of the cast members ended up catching COVID, so we had to stop production on that. And that show, wonderful writer Vicki Beaudry, it's her show called I'm Not Rick Springfield. That has been rescheduled for May.
Okay.
But otherwise, the season has been without incident, and that is in large part to us just making sure that everyone stays safe.
Yeah.
And masks are required for everyone, unless you're on stage as an actor.
Right.
You're going to need to wear a mask for the reading.
All right. For tickets, you can go to script2stage2screen.com or at the door, cash only with reservation $10, April 22nd and 23rd, 7:30 p.m. Inez's birthday and then some, written and directed by Jason Hall. Thank you so much for being here. It sounds like such a fun show. I'm going to see if I can try to make it. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Jason Hall. All right, we'll see you guys next time on The Desert Scene.